In medieval courts, beauty was a weapon, one far more dangerous than any steel blade.
Noblewomen chased the pale, glass-smooth complexion that symbolized purity and wealth.
But behind this glow lay a secret so lethal that physicians whispered about it only in locked chambers. The trick was called Venetian water. At first glance, it looked harmless, clear, delicate, stored in polished crystal bottles. But what the court didn't know was that it was made from acidic vinegar distilled through lead plates, absorbing poison with every drop. Women dabbed it gently across their cheeks, believing it would tighten their skin and erase blemishes. For the first few days, it worked. Faces looked flawless, smooth, luminous. Then the burning began. Soft tingles turned into a searing ache. Tiny blisters appeared beneath the powder. Skin peeled like wax near a flame. Some women wore veils to hide the damage, claiming illness. Others layered even more lead-based makeup to cover the burns, worsening the rot. Within weeks, many noblewomen woke to see their skin cracking, bleeding, sinking into dark pits. Court scribes recorded cases where faces melted like softened tallow, leaving so severe that husbands refused to look at their wives. Those who continued using the beauty water suffered trembling limbs, blackened gums, and eventually slow, silent death by lead poisoning. Yet the obsession didn't end. Each generation of noblewomen inherited the same bottle, the same lies, and the same deadly pursuit of perfection. In medieval Europe, dark, shimmering eyes were considered the height of seduction. But many noblewomen weren't born with striking eyes. They turned to an ingredient so dangerous it belonged in a torture chamber rather than a beauty chest, known as deadly nightshade. It was ground into droplets that women placed directly into their eyes to enlarge their pupils. The first sensation was a pleasant warmth, a soft blur that made their eyes glisten. Servants gasped at the beauty pupils, wide, dark, mysterious. At banquets, men whispered that these women looked enchanted. But behind the admiration hid a nightmare unfolding quietly, drop by drop. Within days, their vision twisted. Candle flames multiplied into blurry halos. Tapestries melted into shapes that didn't exist. Some women stumbled in corridors, unable to judge distance. Others sat completely still at feasts, terrified to blink because their eyes felt like sandpaper. Still they continued. Beauty was a battlefield, and pain meant nothing if it gained attention at court. Weeks later, the damage became irreversible. The chemicals scorched the optic nerve. Noblewomen woke, unable to read letters, unable to see faces, unable to walk alone. A few went blind entirely. Physicians begged them to stop, calling the practice the devil's trick. But powerful families insisted on beauty above all, and the deadly ritual continued. History remembers their eyes as enchanting, yes, but only because they paid for that enchantment with their sight. To appear flawless in medieval courts was a matter of survival. A single blemish could spark rumors. A small scar could ruin a noblewoman's chances of marriage or influence. So they turned to serums,
The infamous white lead powder that promised a ghost-pale glow. The powder went on smooth to smooth.
It clung perfectly, hiding wrinkles, scars, burns, everything. Women felt transformed, flattered, desired. But beneath the glamorous surface, their bodies were dying one breath at a time. Each brushstroke coated them in lead. Each inhale filled their lungs with poison. Each night, the toxic powder seeped deeper into their skin. At first, symptoms were subtle fatigue, nausea, strange headaches. Then came the frightening signs. Their teeth loosened. Gums turned black. Hair fell in handfuls. Skin grew paper-thin, cracking at the slightest touch. Some woke with blood on their pillows. Yet they kept applying more serums, using poison to hide the damage caused by poison. The darkest irony: the powder made their faces whiter because it killed the blood cells beneath their skin. Court physicians recorded terrible accounts of noblewomen whose faces began collapsing inward. Cheeks sank. Eyes hollowed. Mouths twisted. Some were buried with cracked makeup, still clinging to their skin, evidence of their fatal beauty obsession. Serums made queens glow. It also made them rot. In the dim, candlelit chambers of medieval courts, red lips were symbols of seduction, wealth, and forbidden desire. To mimic this alluring look, noblewomen created lip dyes from crushed minerals, one of which was a brilliant red pigment made from mercury sulfide. Just one application looked stunning. Lips gleamed like polished rubies. Admirers stared. Poets wrote about them. But Cinnabar had a secret bite, one that sank into the flesh with every touch. Within hours, women felt the first burn.
A soft tingle. A numbness. Then the skin cracked.
Microscopic fissures formed as mercury leached into their bloodstream. Days later, lips swelled painfully, turning purple, blistering at the corners. Some women could no longer speak without bleeding. Their kisses left stains deep, red marks that smelled metallic and wrong. Servants gossiped that noblewomen had demon lips, rotting from within. Physicians warned the royal court that cinnabar poisoned the nerves and corroded flesh. But the fashion demanded the perfection, and perfection demanded pain. The most tragic cases came from brides, who used extra pigment for their wedding evenings. Some were found the next morning, feverish, shaking, unable to breathe properly. A few died within days, mercury spreading silently through their organs. Cinnabar promised beauty. It delivered slow death. In the medieval era, smooth, unwrinkled skin was seen as a sign of noble birth. But nature rarely cooperated. So women invented a horrifying beauty ritual called steam purging. With no concept of skin sensitivity, they believed boiling hot steam could purify the face. Servants prepared metal cauldrons filled with herbs and oils. Once the water reached a furious boil, women leaned inches above it, trapping the steam beneath thick linen cloths. For the first moments, the heat felt cleansing. Pores opened, skin glowed. They felt reborn. Then the burning started. The steam scalded their cheeks, eyelids, and lips. Tiny water droplets superheated by the cauldron landed on their skin like invisible sparks. Some women fainted from the heat. Others forced themselves to endure longer, believing pain meant the ritual was working. Hours later, the damage revealed itself. Faces reddened violently. Skin bubbled in patches, blisters formed along the jawline and nose. Some burns grew infected within days. Without antibiotics, infections spread quickly, turning small blisters into oozing wounds that left lifelong scars. Desperate to hide the burns, women covered them with lead-based powders, deepening the damage. Court records tell of noblewomen who became unrecognizable after months of steam purging. Their skins sagged prematurely, marked with hardened scars and darkened patches. Ironically, a ritual meant to preserve youth often aged them twice as fast. Yet the ritual continued for centuries, proving one truth: beauty was pain. And in medieval courts, beauty was also death. In medieval courts, pale skin wasn't just fashion, it was power. It told the world you were wealthy enough to avoid sun, labor, and outdoor life. So women desperate for this ethereal glow sought out a notorious whitening paste called spiritus albus. Its recipe: vinegar, chalk dust, and powdered arsenic. At first, the paste felt cool and refreshing. Women smeared it across their faces nightly, letting the mixture dry like a porcelain mask. When they washed it off, their skin looked lighter, smoother, almost radiant. But beneath that glow, arsenic began its silent work. Their skin dried rapidly, cracking at the corners of the mouth and eyes. Red patches appeared beneath the powder. Small sores formed where the paste had been applied most heavily. The pores seemed to shrink because the skin around them was dying. Weeks later, their faces looked ghostly, white too white. Servants whispered that these women resembled spirits, their eyes sunken, their lips pale as parchment. Worse, the poison seeped into their blood, causing dizziness, trembling, and stomach paralysis. The most tragic part: the whiter they became, The sicker they looked yet, many believed the sickness proved the ritual was workin'. Some noblewomen eventually collapsed during feasts, their organs slowly shutting down from constant arsenic exposure. Others lived with permanent scars that darkened into brown patches, ironically reversing the effect they pursued. The whitening ritual promised beauty. Instead, it delivered a deathly pallor that no powder could hide. In the medieval world, queens were judged not only by politics, but by appearance and the most prized beauty trait was impossibly pale skin. Some queens, desperate to maintain this ideal, followed a royal beauty secret so dangerous it bordered on suicide: the white bath. A mixture of lead flakes, goat milk, and crushed pearls was heated until it formed a thick, shimmering liquid. Queens dipped cloths into the mixture and pressed it against their faces, necks, and shoulders. The warmth relaxed them, but the lead did not. In seconds, microscopic particles lodged into their pores, clogging and poisoning their skin. The result: a blinding white glow that stunned courtiers and intimidated rivals. But after the glow came the agony. Their skin tightened unnaturally, cracking at expressions. Smiling became painful. Laughing drew blood. Servants often found flecks of dried lead on pillows, mixed with strands of hair. Worse, the white bath seeped deeper into the bloodstream. Queens experienced nausea, numb limbs, metallic breath, and violent headaches. Their nails turned brittle. Their gums blackened. Some suffered miscarriages blamed on divine wrath, though physicians quietly suspected lead poisoning. Still they continued. Royal portraits demanded the appearance of purity. Political alliances required beauty, and beauty demanded sacrifice. One queen's journal described her reflection after years of white baths. I look pale as snow, yet under my skin, I feel death walking. For medieval queens, pale beauty was power, but that power came with a fatal price. Aging, terrified, medieval noblewomen. A single wrinkle could end a marriage proposal, weaken alliances, or spark cruel gossip. Desperate for eternal youth, women turned to an alchemist's creation known as the elixir of renewal. It was sold in small, ornate glass vials. Its scent was sweet, its texture silky, but the secret ingredient behind its miracle effect was something no one should ever place on their skin: mercury. The elixir tightened the skin instantly. Wrinkles faded. Faces looked smooth, youthful, almost unreal. Women marveled at its power, applying it daily, sometimes twice a day, to retain the illusion.
But the illusion never lasted.
Mercury seeped into their pores, inflaming the skin from within. Their cheeks reddened unnaturally. Their jaws ached. Some felt tingling in their fingers and toes, unable to understand the cause. After weeks, their beauty collapsed. Faces swelled grotesquely. Eyes became puffy. Small tremors began in their hands. Their once soothful glow turned waxy and strange. Some developed a metallic taste in their mouths that never left. Then came the madness. Mercury attacked their nerves, clouding their minds. Noblewomen were found wandering the halls at night, whispering to shadows. Some screamed at servants for imagined threats. Others fell into long, hideous sheetances. Physicians wrote that the youth serum gave women a fleeting beauty, but stole their sanity in exchange. By the time families realized the truth, it was too late. The elixir that promised youth had given them an early grave in medieval courts. Thin, arched eyebrows were considered the height of elegance. Women plucked them relentlessly sometimes, until only faint lines remained. But the most extreme beauty trend went further: complete eyebrow removal. Noblewomen shaved or burned off their eyebrows entirely, then painted new ones using soot, charcoal, or powdered metals. The look was exotic, fashionable, and incredibly dangerous. The first risk came from the tools. Razors were dull. Needles were unclean. Heated wires used to burn hair follicles left tiny burns along the brow. These wounds were small but deadly. Within days, infections set in. A little redness turned into swelling. Swelling turned into throbbing pain. Pus-filled boils rose beneath the skin. Some women pressed herbs or clods against their brows, believing the irritation meant the beauty ritual was taking effect. In reality, bacteria spread quietly into the bloodstream. Many developed fevers so high they mumbled nonsense. Others went blind when the infection reached the eye socket. The most tragic cases occurred when noblewomen, unwilling to lose their elegant look, continued painting artificial eyebrows over infected skin. The pigments often mixed with ash or lead entered the open wounds and poisoned them further. Court physicians documented horrifying deaths caused by something as harmless as eyebrow styling. They called it the silent rot, noting how fast the infection spread from a single plucked hair to the entire face.
Beauty demanded precision.
But in the medieval world, even a small mistake could cost a life. Long before modern creams, medieval noblewomen battled wrinkles, using a method so horrifying it seems impossible today: skin burning. A heated iron rod, small, thin, and shaped like a stylus, was pressed gently against wrinkled areas of the face. The idea was simple: burn the outer skin so new skin would grow smoother. Women believed the pain proved the ritual was powerful. Servants heated the rods over open flames until they glowed faintly red. Noblewomen braced themselves as the metal touched their cheeks, temples, and foreheads. The smell of scorched flesh filled chambers, but the women endured, desperate to preserve their youth. For a few days, the burns scabbed over. When the scabs fell, the skin beneath appeared smoother. Rumors spread that this method was a miracle of beauty. More women lined up to try it. But healing wasn't guaranteed. The burns trapped bacteria beneath the skin. Infections spread fast, turning small marks into weeping sores. Some women developed deep abscesses that left permanent holes in their faces. Others suffered scar tissue that grew thicker than the wrinkles they tried to erase. Worst of all, the burns often caused blood poisoning. Fever, vomiting, and delirium followed. Many noblewomen died in their beds, their faces still wrapped in linen strips, soaked with honey or vinegar. Medieval attempts at healing that only worsened the infection. The wrinkle-burning ritual promised youth, but delivered agony, disfigurement, and early death. Smooth skin was a prized symbol of nobility in medieval courts. But without razors or modern depilatory creams, women relied on a brutal method called quicklime paste to remove unwanted body hair.
The mixture made from limestone ash, vinegar, and arsenic was spread across the skin like warm wax.
At first, it tingled. Then it burned. Women were told to endure the fire for beauty, so they waited as long as they could, believing pain meant success. But the paste didn't just dissolve hair, it ate through the top layers of skin. After rinsing it off, many noblewomen screamed at the sight. Red, raw flesh exposed where smooth skin should have been. Servants applied ointments, but the burns deepened into sores by morning. The open wounds grew infected, turning black around the edges. Some women attempted the treatment again weeks later, desperate to hide scars formed by the first session. But each application worsened the damage. Over time, their skin grew leathery and patchy, marred with purple marks and thick scars. In severe cases, the poisoned paste seeped into the bloodstream. Women developed chills, dizziness, and violent stomach cramp, signs of arsenic sickness. A few died within days, their skin peeling in sheets. Yet the beauty fad continued. Court poets praised silken skin, never knowing the price women paid. Quicklime promised smoothness. Instead, it carved pain into their flesh forever. In medieval beauty rituals, fruit acids were wrongly believed to be gifts from God that purged impure. Women crushed sour grapes, unripe apples, vinegar-soaked herbs, and, in extreme cases, fermented wine dregs to create a corrosive beauty acid called the purifying wash. They dabbed it on their skin every night, especially on pimples or dark spots. At first, the wash stung, tightening the skin. Women thought it was working. Their reflections seemed clearer, brighter. Servants noticed a shine on their cheeks, but beneath the surface, the acid ate away at the skin's protective layer. Tiny cracks opened. Moisture evaporated. Bacteria
Entered freely. Within weeks, their skin became thin as parchment.
Red blotches appeared across their cheeks. Some women developed patches of hard, dry skin, that felt like bark. Others suffered deep sores that refused to heal. The most horrifying cases came from those who used stronger concoctions, herbal acids infused with mold or strong alcohol. Their faces blistered violently, skin peeled off in strips. A few woke up, unable to open their swollen eyes. Attempts to conceal the damage with lead-based makeup only worsened the infection, sealing poison into open wounds. Physicians begged noblewomen to stop, calling the ritual a slow burning of the flesh. But beauty standards demanded perfection, even at the cost of life. The purifying wash promised glowing skin. It delivered disfigurement hidden beneath powder and silk. Medieval noblewomen adored perfume. A single whiff of jasmine, rose, or lavender signaled status, grace, and wealth. But the most coveted perfumes contained a hidden nightmare. Mercury salts used to preserve the scent and intensify sweetness. Women dabbed perfume on their necks, behind their ears, and sometimes directly on their cheeks to mask odors from heavy makeup. The scent was intoxicating, but so was the poison. Mercury seeped through their skin slowly and silently. At first, it caused mild rashes, mistaken for allergies. Then the rashes turned into silver-tinted sores that shimmered unnaturally under candlelight. Physicians described these sores as the mark of the perfumed. As the mercury spread, deeper damage appeared. Skin sagged prematurely. Cheeks hollowed. Lips trembled with small, uncontrollable spasms. Some women noticed their hair falling out in clumps. Others reported creeping numbness first in their fingertips, then across their entire face. They struggled to smile, laugh, or eat without pain. But perfume was a luxury they couldn't abandon. Royal courts expected noblewomen to smell like gardens, even if their bodies were rotting beneath silk gowns. Many hid their worsening condition with veils and heavy powders, pretending nothing was wrong. Years of exposure led to organ damage, insanity, and in some cases, death. The sweetest scents carried the most silent doom. Perfume made them desirable. Mercury made them disappear. Medieval beauty recipes often promised miracles. One of the most popular was a luxurious mask known as the Milk of Moonlight. It combined egg whites, vinegar, powdered charcoal, and finely ground lime ash, believed to erase wrinkles and brighten the complexion. Women applied it at night, letting it stiffen across their faces until it hardened into a shell. When removed, the mask left the skin feeling tight and youthful for a moment. But the lime ash was corrosive. It stripped natural oils. It scarred the deeper layers of skin. It triggered a reaction similar to slow chemical burns. Within days, their faces looked gaunt. Wrinkles deepened instead of fading. Cheeks lost volume. Skin grew dull, gray, lifeless. Some women appeared decades older in a single month, yet they blamed aging, not the mask. So they applied the mask more frequently, rubbing the corrosive paste deeper into their pores. The damage accelerated. Their eyes looked sunken. Their jawline sharpened into a skeletal shape. Dark patches appeared along the nose and mouth, where the mask had burned the skin repeatedly. Servants whispered that these women were cursed, aging unnaturally fast. Physicians recognized the truth. The mask was destroying collagen, muscle, and even the tissue beneath. Some noblewomen withdrew from public life entirely, ashamed of their transformed faces. Others continued the ritual until their skin broke open in fissures that bled beneath powder. The Milk of Moonlight promised eternal youth. Instead, it stole time itself. Painted nails were rare, but admired in medieval courts. To achieve the deep crimson color, women boiled herbs with minerals, one of which was eripiment, a bright yellow arsenic compound. Mixed with ash and wine, it created a pigment that turned nails a stunning ruby red. But beauty came with a hidden cost. When the dye touched their skin, small amounts of arsenic slipped into the bloodstream. At first, women felt lightheaded, which they mistook for excitement. Then came the tingling fingers, the racing pulse, the metallic taste. Within days, strange symptoms emerged. Colors looked too bright. Sounds echoed strangely. Shadows seemed to move. Some women saw figures in the corners of their chambers, ghosts, demons, Lost lovers' visions, born not of magic but poisoning.
They whispered to walls, laughed at nothing, or screamed during feasts.
Their nails, once beautiful, turned brittle and peeled. The skin around them blistered. Some lost entire fingernails, leaving raw, painful beds exposed. Still, they reapplied the dye, believing the visions were divine signs or spiritual awakenings. Others feared stopping might ruin their beauty status in court. Physicians described these cases as dream sickness, a madness induced by toxins. A few noblewomen were locked away after violent hallucinations drove them to harm themselves or attack servants. The dye stained their nails red. The poison stained their minds forever. In medieval courts, makeup artists were trusted with the beauty of queens, duchesses, and noblewomen.
But behind their polished brushes and soft powders was a secret many took to the grave. They used poison to perfect faces.
The most infamous mixture was a foundation called moon dust. It looked like shimmering white powder, delicate as snow, but its key ingredient was ground lead stone, mixed with crushed pearls to disguise its deadly shine. Artists used soft feathers to dust it across women's cheeks, foreheads, and necks. Under torchlight, the effect was breathtaking smooth, pale skin glowing like moonlit marble. But the transformation came at a terrible cost. The powder clogged pores so tightly that the skin suffocated. At first, this created a porcelain finish women adored. But soon, black spots formed beneath the surface. Painful bumps rose like tiny stones under the skin. Some women could feel their faces tightening unnaturally, as if wearing an invisible mask. Makeup artists knew the cure. Apply more moon dust to hide the imperfections, a cycle that only intensified the poisoning. Under the layers, women's skin decayed slowly. Small fissures opened around their lips. Their eyelids swelled painfully.
Their cheeks grew hollow and stiff.
Rumors spread that some artists intentionally kept the formula secret to ensure noblewomen remained dependent on their skills. Others genuinely believed the powder was harmless. By the time the truth surfaced, several women died of lead-induced seizures.
Artists who made moon dust vanished from the courts.
But their deadly beauty legacy remained etched on the faces of those who trusted them. Porcelain skin was the ultimate medieval beauty, ideal smooth, pale, and unblemished. To achieve it, women used a product called alabaster cream. It looked thick and pearly, made from goat fat, flour, and a supposedly magical ingredient, ground alabaster stone. But the secret behind its shine was something far more dangerous. Lead carbonate, added to make the cream whiter and smoother. Women massaged the cream into their faces nightly, believing it would fade freckles and scars. And it did. Temporarily. The cream created a pale film that made their skin look flawless in dim castle lighting. But beneath the surface, disaster unfolded. The cream clogged pores so deeply that sweat and oils had no escape. As the skin suffocated, purple veins became visible beneath the surface. Red blotches appeared around the nose and mouth. Some women developed stiff, painful patches like hardened clay. But they didn't stop. Their solution was more cream. Soon, the cream began cracking like dried paint, leaving the skin beneath even more damaged. The lead seeped into their blood, turning lips bluish and nails brittle. Some noblewomen experienced fainting spells and trembling hands that physicians blamed on weak humors. In reality, they were dying slowly. The most tragic cases occurred when women heated the cream before applying it, believing warmth improved absorption. This allowed lead to slip even faster into open pores, causing burns, swelling, and even facial paralysis. Porcelain skin was an illusion one paid for with permanent disfigurement. Aging was a woman's worst enemy in medieval society. Even a slight wrinkle could spark gossip. So, an extreme anti-aging ritual spread through royal courts. Blood plumping. Women pricked their faces with tiny gold needles until droplets of blood appeared. Then they rubbed a mixture of rose oil and crushed minerals into the wounds, believing it would revive youth by forcing new skin to grow. At first, the ritual seemed miraculous. Cheeks looked fuller. Skin glowed from increased circulation.
Noblemen complimented their freshness, But the wounds left behind were breeding grounds for infection.
Within days, painful swelling appeared around the puncture marks. Some women developed clusters of red boils that oozed when touched. Others experienced fever so severe they shivered beneath heavy blankets. Still, many continued the ritual weekly, unwilling to surrender their youth. Soon, the infections spread beneath the skin. Faces became distorted, swollen, and tender to the slightest touch. Some women developed necrosis patches of skin that darkened and died. A few lost sections of their cheeks or eyelids when the rotting flesh had to be cut away. The most terrifying cases involved blood poisoning. Women collapsed during meals, their veins carrying infection directly to their hearts. Physicians described their final days as rapid decay of the flesh. The anti-aging trick promised rejuvenation. Instead, it opened the door to death. To achieve rosy, youthful cheeks, medieval women used a blush made from red ochre, crushed beetles, and a secret ingredient that gave it an unbeatable glow: vinegar soaked in iron rust. The mixture turned a vivid, seductive red. Applied lightly, it made the face look warm and alive. But when layered to heavily as fashion demanded, it acted like acid. The first application felt warm. The second, hot. By the third, it burned like open flame. The rusted vinegar ate into the skin, causing tiny chemical burns. Women fanned themselves during feasts, trying to hide the pain behind delicate gestures. But the redness of their cheeks was not beauty, it was inflammation. By morning, their faces were swollen. Blisters formed beneath the pigment. Jawlines and cheekbones oozed where the burns had opened. Still, women reapplied the blush, believing the damage was simply overreaction. Their solution was to cover the wounds with powders usually containing lead, which trapped the rusted acid inside. Some noble women eventually suffered facial deformities, distorted cheek shapes, hardened scar tissue, and permanent discoloration. A few developed infections that spread to the eyes or jaw, leaving them disfigured forever. The worst cases came from dancers and courtesans, who used extra layers of blush for nighttime performances. Many collapsed backstage, their faces hot, swollen, and pulsing with infection. The blush gave them color and took their beauty away with the same stroke of all medieval beauty rituals. None was more feared than the rack of radiance.
It wasn't a tortured device, though. It resembled one but a wooden frame used to lift the face.
Women lay on their backs while servants tied thin ropes to their temples, jawline, and cheeks. Slowly, the ropes were tightened to stretch the skin, smoothing wrinkles and lifting sagging areas. The process could last an hour. The pain was unbearable. Temples throbbed, eyelids strained, jaw muscles spasmed violently. But noble women endured, believing the stretching would reshape their beauty permanently. Once the ropes were released, their faces looked temporarily taut, giving them a youthful appearance before important feasts or ceremonies. But soon, the damage became clear. Blood vessels burst beneath the skin, leaving purple webs around the eyes and nose. The stretched tissue bruised deeply, causing dark circles and swollen cheeks. Some women suffered nerve damage, half their face going numb for months. A few experienced more horrifying consequences: dislocated jaws, shifted cheekbones,
Torn skin behind the ears where ropes dug too deeply.
Despite the agony, the practice remained popular in certain royal courts, especially among aging women desperate to compete with younger rivals. Servants whispered that some noble women used the rack so often their faces sagged permanently, unable to heal from the constant stretching BTWAC wall. And this routine was its most painful battlefield. Smooth skin was considered a mark of nobility, purity, and high birth.
But medieval women had no access to modern exfoliants, so they turned to something far more extreme: pumice scraping.
Servants heated rough pumice stones over a flame until they became scorching hot, then dipped them in herbal oils to soften the surface.
Noble women sat still as the stones were dragged across their arms, legs, and even their faces. At first, it felt like a harsh massage.
Then the skin began to peel. Then the burning started.
The scraping removed the outer layer of skin entirely, exposing fresh, raw flesh beneath. Women often screamed during the process, but the belief that beauty required suffering kept them silent in the presence of the court. Within hours, their skin looked smooth, but only because it was newly exposed. By the next day, redness spread across the scraped areas. Some women developed feverish heat radiating from the wounds. Others saw small cuts turn into dark, infected patches. Instead of stopping, they repeated the ritual weekly. The result was catastrophic. Their skin thinned dangerously, bruising at the slightest touch. Sunlight caused stinging pain. In severe cases, the constant scraping damaged nerves beneath the surface. Some women permanently lost sensation in their cheeks or arms.
The worst infections came from stones that weren't cleaned properly.
Bacteria slipped into the wounds, spreading through the bloodstream and causing fatal illness. Smooth skin was achieved, but at the cost of irreversible damage.
Royal women were expected to look flawless at all times, radiant, pale, and ageless.
But behind closed doors, they relied on a secret ritual passed down through generations: the silver veil. The veil was soaked in a mixture of crushed pearls, rosewater, and a lethal ingredient reserved for the wealthy: mercuric chloride. The chemical gave the cloth an icy shimmer that nobles believed had magical youth-preserving powers. Queens and princesses wore the veil for hours each night, letting the toxic liquid seep into their skin. The next morning, their faces appeared smooth and glowing, as if kissed by moonlight. But each application poisoned them a little more.
Their skin became thinner each week, almost translucent.
Blue veins showed through like delicate threads. Their lips faded to a pale gray. Servants whispered that royal women looked ethereal, angelic even. But angelic beauty came at a devil's price.
Soon their bodies weakened. Breathing grew shallow.
Their hair fell out in clumps. Their minds became foggy and slow.
Some forgot simple things: names, faces, conversations from minutes earlier. Yet they continued wearing the veil, terrified of wrinkles, terrified of losing royal status. Physicians knew the truth, but were forbidden from speaking it aloud. The silver veil was killing them slowly. Several queens died young, praised for their radiant beauty even on their deathbeds. But behind their glow was deadly mercury poisoning that drained their life one night at a time. In the pursuit of beauty, medieval women agreed to a treatment so dangerous it should have been outlawed. It was called the iron press, a heated metal plate pressed against the face to reshape the skin. Women believed the heat would flatten wrinkles, shrink blemishes, and firm the jawline. Servants heated the iron until it glowed faintly red, then wrapped it in thin cloth before applying it. The first touch felt warm, almost soothing. The second felt hot. The third seared deep into the flesh. Women clenched their fists, choking back screams, convinced the pain was a sign of transformation. When the press was removed, their faces looked swollen but smooth. They felt hopeful. But by evening, the truth revealed itself. Red marks darkened into purple burns. The skin blistered and peeled. Some women were unable to move their jaw or smile without tearing the healing wounds. Infections followed, spreading quickly across the weakened flesh. Many noblewomen spent months hiding behind veils, their faces twisted by scars that no powder could mask. Some suffered nerve damage that left half their face permanently drooping, yet they were told it was the cost of beauty. Worst of all were the women who repeated the ritual, hoping the next press would reverse the damage. Instead, it deepened it, carving permanent grooves and melted patches into their skin. The iron press promised perfection. It delivered lifelong disfigurement. A high forehead was considered breathtakingly beautiful in medieval Europe. Women believed it symbolized intelligence and nobility. So to achieve the ideal, they used a disturbing technique called hairline sculpting. First, they plucked or shaved the front rows of their hair. But this only worked temporarily. The hair always grew back. So women escalated the ritual by applying pastes made from lime, arsenic, and soot to burn the follicles completely. The paste was smeared along the hairline like a crown. It tingled, then burned, then seared straight through the skin. Once removed, the paste left behind angry red patches. Some women lost more hair than intendinaire sections of their scalp peeled off. Others suffered open sores that dripped clear fluid for days. But the worst part was the infection. The scalp is rich with blood vessels, and once damaged, bacteria spread fast. Women developed fevers, headaches, and swollen lymph nodes. Some became so weak they couldn't rise from bed. Despite the danger, beauty demanded sacrifice. Many women reapplied the paste monthly. Over time, their foreheads grew unnaturally, large not from beauty, but from scarring and tissue loss. Some noblewomen lost hair permanently in uneven patterns, forcing them to wear elaborate veils to hide the damage. The ideal hairline was achieved, but at a price etched into their skin forever. Acne was considered a curse in medieval courts, a sign of impurity or hidden sin. Desperate to clear their skin, women turned to a so-called miracle cure known as the salt fire remedy. The treatment was simple and brutal. Servants heated coarse salt over open flame until it crackled, then pressed the burning grains directly onto blemishes. The pain was instant and excruciating. White-hot needles, sizzling flesh, tears that never fell, because crying was considered a sign of weakness. The salt burned straight into the pore, causing the pimple to shrink dramatically. Women were thrilled by the quick result and demanded daily treatments. But the real damage occurred beneath the surface. Each burn created micro-wounds that healed unevenly. The skin thickened into raised, hard patches. Some women developed deep pit craters that marred their cheeks permanently. Others suffered dark, hardened scars that spread like bruises. Infections were common. Salt mixed with sweat and oil became a breeding ground for bacteria. Some women woke to find half their cheeks swollen and purple. But the treatment didn't stop. Court healers insisted the pain meant it was working. The salt fire remedy became a beauty obsession, destroying more faces than it saved. Even queens used it, hiding their scars beneath layers of white powder. The cure for pimples left them with wounds far worse than the blemishes they tried to erase. In medieval courts, glowing cheeks were seen as a sign of health and youthful charm.
Women who lacked natural color often relied on a common hack known as heat blushing. At first, it sounded harmless. Simply warm the skin until it flushed.
But the method they used was anything but harmless. Servants heated metal spoons over candle flames until they were scorching hot.
Then, with trembling hands, they pressed the warm metal gently against the cheeks.
The heat forced blood to the surface, creating a temporary rosy glow. But beauty made them greedy. Warm became hot. Hot became scalding. And scalding turned into hell. The spoons burned through the delicate skin, leaving angry red marks. Women told themselves it was temporary, covered the swelling with powders, and repeated the ritual the next night. Within weeks, the burns deepened. Blisters formed, skin peeled in uneven patches. Some areas hardened into thick scars, while others sank inward. Desperate to hide the damage, women applied more powders laced with lead, poisoning themselves while their burns festered underneath. The combination of heat burns and toxic cosmetics turned their faces into battlegrounds. Physicians wrote of noblewomen who screamed when cold water touched their cheeks. The nerves so damaged that even a light touch felt like a blade. Others lost the ability to smile, their skin too tight and scarred. The beauty hack meant to give a healthy glow instead left women living with a nightmare reflected in every mirror. Among the wealthiest medieval women, the most popular beauty product was a skin brightener sold in tiny jeweled jars. It was known as lunar balm, praised for its ability to lighten dark spots, shrink pores, and give the skin a moonlit glow. But its secret ingredient was deadly: white arsenic. The balm felt luxurious, cool, silky, and light.
When applied, it gave the face an instant, pale radiance.
Noblewomen adored it. They used it every morning and every night, believing it protected their beauty from age and sun. But arsenic works slowly, silently. Within days, women complained of fatigue. Within weeks, their gums darkened. Within months, their skin developed strange gray patches, yet they kept using it, unaware the balm itself was causing the discoloration. Court healers thought the sickness was caused by spirits or bad air. Priests blamed curses. No one suspected the shimmering white cream. The poison seeped deeper into their bodies, damaging their liver and heart. Some noblewomen collapsed without warning, their nails turning white, their pulse slowing to a crawl. Others lost clumps of hair and developed painful ulcers on their faces. But the most heartbreaking cases were the women who believed the worsening symptoms meant they needed more lunar balm. They applied thicker layers, accelerating their decline. History now knows the truth. The balm that promised purity delivered death, drop by drop, night after night. To achieve smooth, hairless skin, medieval noblewomen practiced a horrifying ritual called ash binding. First, they mixed ashes from burned herbs with sticky tree sap, forming a thick paste. Then they smeared it across their arms, faces, and legs. Once the paste dried, servants wrapped strips of linen tightly around the limbs, binding the mixture against the skin overnight. By morning, when the bindings were removed, hair clung to the cloth like moss. But so did pieces of skin. The sap tore through the upper layers, ripping away living tissue. Women cried out, shocked at the raw flesh beneath.
Servants reassured them. This meant the ritual was working.
But the damage only worsened. Open wounds became crusted with ash residues. Infections spread rapidly, especially on the face. Some women awoke days later, unable to open one eye, the skin around it swollen and crusted shut. Others developed deep scars that twisted their expressions permanently. To hide the disfigurement, noblewomen resorted to thicker powders and veil symbols meant to display status, now used to hide suffering. One chronicled case described a duchess whose cheeks became so damaged that her skin pulled inward, giving her a gaunt, skeletal appearance. Her once beautiful face became unrecognizable even to her husband. Ash binding delivered smooth skin. Yes, but it also erased the faces of those who dared to use it. A mysterious beauty ritual known as glow water illumination swept through medieval courts, promising a radiant, shimmering complexion that looked ethereal under torchlight.
The secret.
A mixture of water, crushed firefly powder, and powdered realgar, a bright orange mineral rich in arsenic.
Women painted the shimmering liquid on their faces and arms before feasts. The glow was mesmerizing. Their skin sparkled faintly like starlight.
Nobles gasped in admiration.
Poets wrote verses about their celestial beauty. But after the glow faded, the suffering began. Realgar poisoned the skin on contact. First came redness, then burning, then open wounds. Within days, glowing patches turned into dark, crusted sores. Women who applied glow water repeatedly developed rashes that spread across their bodies. Some suffered violent stomach sickness and fainting spells from arsenic absorption. The worst cases came from women who used glow water near the eyes.
The poisonous powder caused blindness, swelling the eyelids shut permanently.
Physicians soon recognized the ritual as deadly, but the court ignored their warnings. Beauty trends moved faster than medicine. Women wanted the glow, even if it killed them. And it did!
Records mention several noblewomen who died within weeks of using glow water, their organs failing from arsenic poisoning.
Some were buried glowing faintly due to the residues soaked into their skin, a haunting testament to their fatal pursuit of beauty. The glow-up was unforgettable. So was the price. In the medieval era, smooth, flawless skin was prized above all else. To hide blemishes and scars, women used a cosmetic mixture called black bloom balm, a blend of charcoal, pig fat, and a mysterious dark powder sold only by traveling alchemists. That powder was antimony, a toxic metal. At first, the balm worked beautifully. It created a silky matte finish that covered every imperfection. Women felt confident, elegant, untouchable, but antimony reacts with skin in horrifying ways. After several days, women noticed their skin growing darker, not from pigment, but from chemical reaction. Their cheeks took on a grayish tone. Their foreheads darkened. Their lips turned black at the edges. Servants whispered that noblewomen looked shadow-touched, as if death itself had brushed their cheeks. The more the balm was used, the darker the skin became. Pores clogged. Boils formed. Black patches spread like bruises. Many women panicked and applied more balm to cover the discoloration, unknowingly worsening the poisoning.
Some lost entire layers of skin as the metal ate through tissue.
Others suffered swelling so severe their features distorted. Worst of all, antimony seeped into the bloodstream, causing neurological damage. Women became weak, confused, and unable to control their facial muscles. A few died from organ failure caused by prolonged exposure. The balm that promised a perfect complexion instead transformed their faces into darkened, lifeless masks. Beauty didn't just fade, it decayed.